KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger, a public affairs program featuring stories from all over the Central Valley with Sevag Tateosian, 90.7 KFSR.
I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. Welcome to the Central Valley Ledger. We're recording out of the beautiful downtown Fresno studios of the Community Media Access Collaborative Fresno and Clovis. Our guest this week is Gia Kazarian. She is a consultant, a professional consultant, a leadership consultant. I can go down the list with the words, but welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Gia Kazarian. I was born and raised here in Fresno, so I'm a nice Central Valley Fresno girl. I graduated from Bullard High School in 1997, and after high school went to college at UCLA. I got my BA in psychology and a minor in workplace studies, and from there decided to go for graduate school. Applied and got into New York University, NYU, and I got my master's degree in what's called industrial and organizational psychology. So that's psychology within the workforce, and that ranges from a lot of different things. So it ranges from organizational development, benefits and compensation, communication, motivation, executive coaching, all the soft skills of leadership that go into different organizations and companies. From there, after I got my degree, I worked at Citigroup doing human resources, and I also came across a boutique consulting firm called First Impressions Consulting. So I will go into that in a little bit because that's a big chunk of it. Moved back to Fresno in 2006. Got married to a Fresno boy, Andrew Kazarian, so that worked out really well.
A nice guy, by the way.
Yeah, really nice guy. And so we now have two sons, Luke, who's 7, and Austin, who's 4. And when I moved back, I got hired with PG&E, and I got hired for their leadership coaching department. So I coached managers and superintendents and directors. My territory was from Fresno down to Bakersfield.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I got that experience, and they also taught classes for their leadership development. So I would go to the Bay Area, teach classes for them for weeks or so. Been working with them on and off for the past 10 years, and the kiddos came into the picture. So that kind of changed the career path a little bit. But gosh, not even a year ago, I was having dinner with my husband and my brother, and I said, you know, that First Impressions job was like such a great job, and I've been in the workforce for the past 10 years, and Fresno has a need. I see a need for executive coaching. I see a need for career development, leadership development, presentation skills, social skills, and I was like, what if I brought this to Fresno? Long story short, got in touch with my old boss, Dr. Ann Demaray, who I'll talk about in a little bit. Pitched the idea to her to bring it to the Central Valley. She loved it. She said, go for it. And here we are. It hasn't even been a year.
Here it is in downtown talking about it.
Yeah, I love it.
I want to go back a little bit to your studies, your college studies, and then your master's degree.
Yeah.
What made you decide to go into that field? I mean, you know, and I asked the question because I work in HR as well on my day job. And so it's really a niche area. I mean, it's really
is.
It's not like doctor or lawyer or successful business or whatever. It's more of this kind of little area, this niche area.
And that's exactly what I wanted, was a niche. After I graduated from UCLA, I said, what route do I want to go? You know, you graduate with a psychology degree, but that's very general. So I said, do I want to do clinical? Do I want to do marriage and family? What route do I want to go? And I talked to a friend who was already in a master's program in industrial and organizational psychology. I said, she described it to me. I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. That sounds perfect. It's I really love the moving people forward. I love the leadership development. I love seeing people work with their teams and advancing their employees and their careers. And it just clicked with me. And so I applied to all grad schools in California and, of course, NYU. Never thought I would go. Ended up getting in. I was like, I gotta go. It's my calling. So.
Tell us about living in New York.
Yeah.
I've known people that have lived in New York and they've loved it. And then there's the small group that say, oh, there's too much traffic in New York. It's not like Fresno.
Nope.
Or is it? I'll let you be the judge.
It's a little bit of both. I mean, New York is unique all in of itself. I mean, it is the hustle and the bustle, and it's the energy, and it's the vibe, and it's booming at all hours of the day, all hours of the night, and you have businesses, and you have restaurants, and it's very, you know, ethnically diverse. So, I mean, there's that aspect of it, but there are similar elements to Fresno. Fresno is rich in business, you know. There's big businesses, corporations, small businesses, medium businesses, family-owned businesses. And what I'm finding in this field is we're pretty progressive. I mean, people are interested in what I have to say. They're interested in this concept. They're interested in developing their employees and enhancing themselves and being better people and being, or not people, but being the best version of themselves, being better leaders. And so they are really grasping it and gravitating towards it, and they're loving it. So I'm thrilled, you know?
Why should we care about this? I mean, I know that each of us have so much potential.
Sure.
But there are some people who say, you know what, this is me and I'm happy just cruising through life. Why, if I'm a business owner, why should I care and why should I bring First Impressions and Gia to the table?
Yeah, so why not be the best version of yourself, right? Life is uncertain, life is short, you never know what's gonna happen, so why not be the best possible that you can be? And like, really, and that's what I'm doing with First Impressions. I'm not here to change you. I'm here to say, where do you want to be? How do you want to come across? And let's get you to that point. Why not excel your career to the next level? Why not develop your employees and have a happy workplace? Why not get a great team in place and do the best that you can? And so what I do is, I mean, I do a lot of different things, but part of the coaching is, let's get you to that next level. Let's get you to that promotion. Let's get you to all happy employees. Let's get you to the best communication that you can be, so you can be the best that you can. Have the most successful business that you can. Be the best person that you can.
So when I'm hearing you talk, I'm hearing you say that there are some of us that have that in us, that can go farther.
Absolutely.
Are you seeing that? I mean, when you go into a room, do you see that there are some people here that have a lot of potential that's not being utilized?
Tons of potential. One of my biggest things is like cater to your individual strengths. You know, sure, there's always blind spots. Sure, we can always increase and work on that. But also, we have a lot of great strengths, so let's utilize those. A lot of the times, I come into different organizations or whatnot, and they say, "Well, this is the way it's always been done. We can't change it." I said, well, is there a rule about that? Or is it, you know, if against policy, that's one thing. And they're like, well, no, it's just always been done that way. I said, okay, what if we changed it up a little bit? Or I asked the questions to have the client brainstorm the ideas and to get the resources and get the processes and whatnot. And so you just increase efficiency, you increase self-presentation, you increase self-efficacy, so you increase all of that.
So how do you, just out of curiosity, how do you get people talking? Let's say you walk into a room and people are like, oh, we don't want to be here. We're just here because the boss said so.
Yeah.
You know, and you're going to face that if you haven't already. So how do you get, like, is there a button or something you push?
I'm very real with them. And I pride myself on not being too pushy or too salesy. So if you want the service, wonderful. I will be here to help you. I'm not going to push myself on you. That's just kind of a personal thing for me. So if I have a resistant individual, whatnot, I could say that. I said, just give me 1 hour of your time. If you do not like what you have to, if you do not like what you hear after this, then that's fine. But just give me 1 hour. But be open-minded about it. And the way this whole thing works is you have to want it. I can't tell you it. Your boss can't tell you it. Your coworkers can't tell you it. Your husband or wife can't tell you it. It's like you have to want it internally. And to do it, I always use the analogy, like you have to have an open mind with this. An open mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So if you want some change, if you want to excel, be open about it, and we'll, as a coach or as an individual, I will push you. I'll give you it's a safe space. I give you some feedback that your employees or coworkers aren't going to feel comfortable saying. So I give some raw feedback. We push it. It's a very dynamic process in regards to the coaching. I have you try things, or you come up with the things that you want to try. If it doesn't work, we toss it out, put something new in. And so it's ever changing, it's ever evolving, and it's just moving you along. It's holding you accountable. It's putting a little, flame to the fire. It's like, let's get your feet to the fire. Let's go a little bit.
And as you're talking, that's exactly what I was thinking. It sounds like you're there to move people along. Is it a lot of times that the people in this session have their own answer? It's just you kind of just pushing them to the
absolutely.
limit?
They are the expert in their field. And I tell them that up front. They said, I am not the expert in your field. My job is to ask you the questions and to have you brainstorm and to have you think and to push you along in a mental capacity in regards to the executive and leadership coaching. There's a whole other element in regards to the first impression fundamentals, which I'm sure we'll talk about too.
Why are first impressions so important?
Yeah.
I ask you that question because in my life, there have been people I've met that have opened doors for me, and I've only talked to them, for about an hour of my time.
Yeah.
And so they've opened doors for me, but that's just me. Why are first impressions so important?
So you get one chance to make an impression, first impression. And that it may not be very long, it could be 30 seconds or less, 1 minute or less, or 20 minutes or less. And once that person forms an impression of you, it is very, very difficult to change. So there's what's called the first impressions filter. They make a hypothesis about you, and they will seek information to confirm their hypothesis. Everyone likes to think they're a good judge of character. So they're going to look for cues and behaviors that match their initial thinking of you. And so, you get one chance to make your good first impression, and there's different fundamentals that go into it. There's a whole psychology behind it. There's different biases that play into it. And so if you don't represent your best self first, it's almost impossible to reverse a negative first impression.
Can your attitude help in getting promotions and stuff like that? I mean, talk a little bit about someone's attitude in the workplace.
Oh, attitude is huge. It's everything. One of the fundamentals of first impressions is perspective. So are you a glass half empty person or you're a glass half full person? Are you always a victim and everything is woe is me and nothing ever goes right? Or everyone has bumps in the road, right? So, or are you accountable? Do you take actions? Do you problem solve? So your attitude, your energy, your vibe, your willingness to do things is huge in the workforce. People pick up on that. People want to be around you when you have that can-do attitude. Nobody wants to be around someone that's complaining all the time. One of my pet peeves is like, handle it, or get some help if you can't handle it, or find some resources that can move you along, or call a coach or whatnot. But everyone has bumps in the road, and so what your attitude is, what you project, huge in promotions and being on teams and working and just being in general, being a likable person in general.
Talk a little bit more about some of the other fundamentals of first impressions.
Yeah. So you want me to tell you a little bit about the
Sure,
whole book? And
sure.
well, it's
Sure.
segue in. Yeah. So First Impressions is written by 2 PhD cognitive psychologists, Dr. Ann Demery and Dr. Valerie White, and they did all sorts of social psychology studies and research on what goes into making a good first impression, and they wrote it in a book. And what's unique about this company is they take the research, they take the book, and they translate it to real life. So it's very personable, it's very tangible, and you're able to relate to it. And they started out in the executive world. They started out with Fortune 100 companies, looking at executives on how they come across in regards to communication, how they come across in regards to their engagement. And a lot of these very top professionals were very surprised on the influence they had on others, what their body language was saying, what their tone of voice was saying. And they were very surprised at these blind spots that they had. And so these 2 authors decided to translate this to the real world. Why couldn't everybody do this? It doesn't have to just be executives or in a company. So they brought this book, and the firm, First Impressions Consulting, it takes this book and it makes it into real life. So as a consultant in regards to this, I would meet with somebody, and whether it be any sort of a social situation. So if they wanted feedback on how they came across when meeting a potential buyer or a client for the first time, or if they have to run a business meeting, or even a first date, how do I come across? And so what we did is I got trained to be one of the consultants. We'd actually have a simulated conversation. So if someone was interviewing for a job, I'd actually ask them job interview questions. If someone was trying to figure out, do a business presentation or meeting a client, I would be that client, and we'd role play. Or first date, I'd meet them at a Starbucks, and I said, I'm Gia. What do you say? And I said, what do I say? Yeah, what do you do? And so we had an actual conversation, 45 minutes to an hour, and based upon the fundamentals that are in this book, which I'll expand on, I give them feedback based on the behavioral principles. So it's not just me, my subjective view, Gia, this is what I think. Based upon these objective behaviors in this book, This is what the feedback is. Here are some blind spots. Here are some things you did really well. What can we do to improve it? And then we could establish a coaching plan after that. So some of the fundamentals in this book, one is accessibility. That is, how accessible are you? How safe are you for somebody to approach you? What does your body language say? Are you smiling? Is your posture? Are you hunched over?
I want to stop you right there.
Yeah.
I apologize. I don't want you to lose your train of thought.
No,
but
it's good.
these are things that some people may never even think of,
No.
like accessibility,
Absolutely.
or are you always available for someone to come talk to you? Like,
Right.
some people may not be thinking about
No.
that. What it sounds like you're doing is kind of letting people thinking about these concepts and thinking about, carrying yourself out in a way that is more welcoming.
And what I'm doing is I'm just bringing it to the forefront of people's minds and to have it be intentional and to be present and to be active. All of the stuff that I teach in my workshops, people know it, but to hear it in a packaged deal, it's like, oh gosh, maybe I am lacking on this, or maybe I do need to do more of this. So, body language is huge. Are you smiling, or are you on your cell phone when trying to talk to somebody, texting somebody?
And that's the big one now. That's the big one now,
it's
because
bad,
I've caught I
do it too. We all do it.
I will admit that when someone talks to me, sometimes I will, send a text message or look online. So I think I could do both, but the reality is I should really put my phone down and give you all my attention.
Active listening, that is a hot topic. I've done a couple workshops in even just the past couple weeks, and that is the hot topic of how do you actively listen. And we're in a day and age, the text messages, the emails, the phones, so much coming at us all at one time. But if you really want to make a good first impression, and let's say you're meeting a client, and to really actively listen and to give them your undivided attention, it's huge, and it's hard. You have to make it a point to do it. Yeah.
So it sounds like, and you mentioned this earlier, that after meeting the client, you use this as your kind of map to kind of take them from point A to point B, and then share with them their feedback. So someone can't say, this is Gia making this stuff up.
Right. I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm giving you
what experts have
what
said.
research has shown. Yes.
So who are your clients? Are we talking about nonprofits? Are we talking about people?
Well,
and you don't have to give too much information about who exactly they are.
Sure.
But are we talking is it nonprofit, Fortune 500 company? Is it someone like Sevag?
Yeah, it's a mix of everything. So some of the services that I offer, so I offer one-on-one executive coaching and leadership development. I offer workshops to universities or companies in regards to making the best first impression. How do you network? How do you meet a client for the first time or a potential buyer? How can you make yourself put your best foot forward? And then I do the simulated job interviews or the social and coaching and whatnot. But I've worked with, I got permission to say some of these names, but I just did a workshop for Fresno Pacific University
on
seniors,
campus, so a school.
Graduating seniors. They're going to go out in the real world and network. How do you deliver an elevator speech? How do you present your best self for it?
I love that, by the way, and I apologize, I'm interrupting you because I love this conversation. I love that schools have had you come in to talk because the job working in HR, you see the applications that come through it. Some of these positions are extremely competitive.
Absolutely.
So someone who's been coached, I would say, has an advantage.
Absolutely, and there's a whole technique around interviewing and finding out what the needs are for the employer and how you can best fit those needs and coming up with stories and anecdotes to make that employer remember you. There's just lots of different things that you can do.
Go ahead. I wanted to talk about that aspect, go a little bit more down that path. So I always hear from people who say, I've been to 10 interviews, I haven't got the job, now I'm not as energized in going to the 11th or 12th. But what do you say about that? Don't you have to go into every job with that, I'm hungry, I want this job attitude?
Yeah, you got to put your best foot forward. Even if you are defeated and down in the dumps, it's a first impression. You got to fake it till you make it almost. It's you get yourself ready, you get yourself knowledgeable about that company, about that job, and you get yourself prepared. Prepared is the biggest key in regards to self-confidence, which leads to having a good first impression.
We sometimes, I know people in bigger cities that say, oh, Fresno, you don't have the smartest, or you don't have the best people there because they all leave.
Yeah. No.
You're in a unique position. And I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you this question because you've been in Fresno, you've been in Southern California, you've been in New York,
Right.
you've kind of triangled.
Right. Yeah.
Do we have some good people here?
Heck yeah, we have some good. We have amazing people here. I mean, the talent, the education, the work ethic. I mean, everything. And like I said, I have been so pleasantly surprised with the response and the energy and the traction that I've gone with this, and to develop themselves and to develop the employees. And I'm sorry, I think we have some incredible people here. And I mean, look around. We have some big businesses, and even down to the family-owned businesses, but we are thriving, and let's take that and let's go to the next level. And I use the analogy with like a coach or whatnot, is like every professional athlete has a coach, if not one, if not two. It's not because they're bad, it's to get them to that next level. So this is a very progressive concept. It's very forward thinking, but why not?
So it's not just someone who has ambition that's going to succeed. It's someone that has the ambition, understands how people perceive them, maybe? Is that, am I right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot of it is self-awareness. So the more self-aware you are, the more you can affect your environment, and the more you can influence your environment. You inspire others by your examples. You lead by your examples. The more self-aware you are, you can fill in the gaps if there are any, or you can excel on your strengths. And so, yeah, it's great.
So we're running, believe it or not, we're
Are we
running out
really?
of time on the
Wow.
program. We have some time left to
Okay.
talk about this part of it. So let's say I'm a business owner
Yeah.
or a leader in a nonprofit, and I want to take my company or nonprofit to the next level. I call you up. What's the first conversation that happens?
Yeah, we get a lay of the land. We get,
Okay.
give me some background, so a little bit about yourself, a little about your company, where you are right now, and where do you want to be. So you have a starting point, you have an end point. And as your coach or your leadership consultant, we work backwards, okay? So we get that starting, we get the end point, and then we start putting some stepping stones into place, and then we start putting some very tangible action steps to get you to your goals. So little by little, without you even really realizing it's happened, we move you along little by little. And like I said, it ebbs, it flows. We take things out, we put new things in. A new situation comes in, and we adjust to that. And so it's, again, my job is to ask the questions, to have you think in different ways, to brainstorm, to collaborate, to identify what your goals are, what your abilities are. What are the perceptions of other people seeing you? What are your success factors? What resources do you need? So it's a completely outside point of view, asking you the questions to move you along.
You know, I'm sensing that you're the cup is half full type of person. Like
Yeah.
you're this positive, full of energy person. At the end of the day, why is that important for people to be that way?
You know, it's a personal thing, but I feel that it's contagious. I feel that you lead by example. You set what I call like a shadow of a leader or shadow of a person, and I think it's infectious. I'm a mother, I'm a wife. It all stems from, I mean, my kids see it every day. You know, I think you lead by example, and it's a personal choice. And it's sure there are bad days. You know, it's not always
We're
it's
not
always great.
Yeah.
But the overall attitude, and every day is a new day, and let's go forward.
You brought up kids. I have 2 toddlers.
Yes.
And already I want to teach them,
Absolutely.
you know, be positive, you know, everything is good, smile and stuff. Am I doing right?
Absolutely.
Should we be, is it, you know?
Why not? It's all the basic elements, okay? So why not teach your toddler to look somebody in the eye? Why not teach them to smile or to shake somebody's hand when they come in? Why not teach them to not interrupt? Right? When you're talking, how often do you hear mommy, mommy, mommy,
Yeah,
or daddy,
yeah.
dad, when you're having a conversation? Patient, you have to take your turn. That's one of the fundamentals, conversational dynamics. Are you taking turns? Are you dominating the conversation, or are you balanced? Why not teach them the basics of communication and self-presentation and being the best version of themselves, and not blaming others? You know, even like take accountability.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's
that's,
huge.
for me, that's big too. If
Yeah.
someone makes, we're not perfect. If someone
No.
makes a mistake,
Own
hey,
it.
own it, move on, fix it, we can make it work.
Right.
So what I'm hearing from you is that's correct too. Like someone who make a mistake, admit to it.
own it, apologize for it, figure out a solution on how you can move it going forward. Don't harbor those feelings. Everybody makes mistakes, but the one thing that you do when you do make a mistake, you apologize and you own it if it is your fault, and figure out what your intention is and what you can do moving forward, and to have those conversations, those hard conversations if needed.
So briefly, the book you base this whole model on is called?
It's called First Impressions: What You Don't Know About What You Don't Know About How Others See You.
And then the company you work for is First Impressions.
First Impressions
Tell us a
Consulting.
little bit about how we can get in touch with you.
Sure.
Who should be getting in touch with you?
Yeah, so anyone looking for one-on-one individual coaching in regards to leadership or personal development, if there's a company or an organization where you want me to talk to your employees. So I've done a lot of work with lots of sales staff, a lot of people in the real estate industry, real estate agents, having to make a good first impression when you first meet somebody. So anyone, if there's a company or an organization or a university where you want me to do group coaching sessions or group presentations where I can talk to a lot of people, there's that too. Or if you're going for a job interview or just want some general feedback on how you come across socially, again, with a business client or meeting for a first time or a first date or any type of a social situation, I am able to provide you feedback and give a presentation to you if you want to do a company seminar, business school seminar.
How can they get in touch with you?
They can email me, Gia at firstimpressionsconsulting.com.
30 seconds left. First impressions are important. Why?
First impressions are important. You get one chance to make it. You don't want to mess it up. You want to always put your best foot forward, and they open doors for you. You never know where something's going to lead. You never know who is watching, you in the grocery store, in a business meeting, whatnot. And I'm a big believer in the energy you put out into the universe. It kind of has a spider web trickle down effect. So you put your best self forward, and then the wheels are in motion, and things start happening. You get traction, and you moving forward, and just being the best version of yourself.
On that note, what a wonderful way to end this week's program. Thank you, Gia, so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We got to have you back.
I would love to be back, yeah.
That's all for this edition of the Central Valley Ledger. Our guest has been Gia Kazarian with First Impressions. She's a consultant, professional consultant, leadership consultant, here telling us a little bit about what she does and talking about her clients and First Impressions. Thank you to the volunteer crew that made this production possible. We couldn't do it without you working in the studio. Moises and Bestina made us look and sound good. Thank you for that. Thank you also to those listening to this broadcast on 90.7 FM KFSR Fresno, and to those watching on Comcast 93 and AT&T 99. We hope you enjoyed the program this week. Tune in next week to a new edition.
KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger every Sunday morning at 11:30. For complete program schedule, visit kfsr.org.